we go. Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. I gotta be honest with you. That game drove me nuts. I cannot believe the Buccaneers lost that game. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Tough one. Man, that was an absolute laser from Cooch, wasn't it?
What a crazy game. The Bulls are bowl bound for the third season in a row. An incredible performance. And listen, we know the competition. They did what they had to do. No more silver linings. No more moral victories. It was put up or shut up time. And boy, did they rise to the occasion.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. We are live here at Benchmark International Arena. Happy February 5th, 2026 to you and yours. It's always good to be here at the arena. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. And yes, I promise I won't sing today. Benny says epic moment, but some other people said don't quit your day job. So, yeah, I think I'll just listen to the latter. DT, J-Bird, I pray we come out of tonight's game with no friggin' injuries. Of course, we'll talk a lot about the Tampa Bay Lightning today here at the arena. Also, we've got some renderings. For what the new Ray Stadium could look like here on the Tampa side. We'll get that to you. And, yeah, it's we'll see. 31,000, I think, is the capacity. I hope it happens. I hope baseball stays here. But excuse me if I'm a little pessimistic after what we've had to deal with over the last couple of years. Our good buddy Evan Closky will join us at 1 o'clock today from Channel 10. And we'll get from him, what does he think on that, the new stadium, if we're going to see it or not. Because renderings are great, but we need to see shovels in the ground. We need to see people put money where their mouth is. Appreciate DT and also Janet Best. Love that Gerald McCoy openly roots for the Buccaneers. He certainly does. He's been a Buccaneer fan since day one. He's always said that too. He's always said that even when he first got drafted and later on in his career. He was always a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and he's openly rooting for them all the time. And I know that's been a big topic of conversation here in the last 24 hours of Tom Brady saying that he doesn't have a dog in the fight in the Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Seahawks. And there is a lot of people that are very unhappy. I saw sports radio in Massachusetts pissed off. I see Asante Samuel pissed off. I see Vince Wilfork pissed off. It's just like, all right, guys, it is what it is, right? He gave you the Super Bowls. I know he's got the statue out front. Was it tongue in cheek? Like, who knows? I mean, we're taking this kind of stuff so literal and letting it ruin our day. Isn't it kind of crazy that that's the big storyline? We were mentioning about how the Super Bowl is lacking buzz. The most noteworthy story of this entire Super Bowl is what Tom Brady said. He's not even in this freaking game. It's just very, very strange. Again, follow me on all social media platforms at Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube. A big thank you to our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, for all of your residential and commercial needs. And, of course, Evara Health, our Evara Health injury report coming up today at 12:30 with the doctor, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez on show. Can't wait to have him on the program. He is the best. Ed Encina is going to join us at 1:30 as well from the Tampa Bay Times. So we'll talk a little bit of everything on the program today. We'll hear from Curtis Douglas. We will hear from Jack Finley. And we're also going to hear from head coach Jon Cooper. Now, you're going to hear from me too. If you listened to the show yesterday, I told you why Artemi Panarin would not be a good fit with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we have some more information on that. We will talk about that at 12:20 today. So don't go anywhere. But one of the big things that we were waiting to hear, and this is kind of the big story today, was what is going on with Brayden Point. Now, Brayden Point here once again, and you just feel for the guy. Again, if you joined me yesterday, or you heard me yesterday, one of the big things that I was talking about was during the Stadium Series, while the guys were up there in the press box behind me, Point was up there and he just looked so miserable. I felt so bad for the guy. It just sucked. He wanted to be out there so bad. So while Finley and all these other guys were happy that, Vazzy was dropping the gloves, Pointer had like this, you could just tell, FOMO. He wanted to be out there with his team. So the big thing was today showing up, right? Is he going to be out there? Is he going to be ready for Team Canada for the Olympics? Tuesday, Brayden Point was the first guy on the ice and one of the last guys off it. So he really put himself through kind of the rigors to see if he's going to be ready. Today wasn't one of the first guys. He was actually one of the last guys on the ice and one of the first guys off of the ice. And we have seen today Julien Brisebois here a lot walking downstairs. He was been with the head trainer, Tommy Mulligan. You don't really see Julien Brisebois down here a lot. The fact that he's with Tommy Mulligan and them walking, all signs point to that they're keeping a close eye on Brayden Point and seeing if he's available. We heard from Jon Cooper, and you're going to hear from him in a second. The decision for him to go to Milan has to be made today. So let's hear from Jon Cooper. He answers questions about Brayden Point, answers questions about what the lineup is like tonight, and also what to expect in this game tonight. It doesn't sound like Cooper is very sure. Could there be a lot of physicality, or could everybody kind of be taking it easy, knowing that this is the last game before the Olympic break? You guys can judge for yourself. Here's Jon Cooper from Morning Skate today.
So, Charlie Warren and Hagel have been skating the last little while. We haven't asked.
Hey, lineup's the same as it was the other night, and asked me that in 2.5 weeks.
So they're getting close to it.
Well, it's 2.5 weeks. Like, it's a big Olympic break.
Coop saw a point out there again today. He's been skating with you guys the last couple of times.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing new with him.
Now we've talked so much about getting to the Olympic break. One last game. What do you hope to see tonight? What is the message to
I
the
just
guys?
want us to win the game and everybody stay healthy.
Is Brayden going to Italy with you?
I don't know, that decision's being made today, so I can't answer that.
You were asked about blocking out the hype of the Stadium Series, the Olympics, and just handling the regular season games between that. Just the plan you talked about, mapping that out. Just how you've seen the guys execute that.
Actually, rewatching the game the other night against Buffalo, I didn't mind our game, actually. I thought we played pretty well. We deserved to get points out of that game. It was a little, I guess, squirrely on how it came down to like the last minute, but there was a lot of good from that game. I didn't think the guys took their foot off the gas. So I was really proud of them for that. And now we just have one more against a big rival. So there's just a lot of underlying things at stake with this game, especially in the standings for both teams, but the impending tournament that's coming up in a few days. So it's be interesting how this game plays out.
So do you like the idea that it's a rivalry game because of all? I mean, it's last game before the break.
Yeah.
Some guys are going somewhere. You're going somewhere. Like there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. So it's it's weird. I've been in these situations before, and you just don't want to have guys with one foot on the tarmac, and one on the ice. It's that's our job, is to make sure our guys are ready to go.
Coop, what can you say about Radish goals in 5 games? The huge goal the other night. Just really seemed to grow into that spot on the power play,
He
especially.
really has a little. All the boys got a little chemistry together, and our power play probably wasn't where we liked it 10 games into the season, but since then it's steadily improved. He's a big reason for it.
Carlisle, you've talked about a little bit, and then obviously same lineup tonight, so he'll be in. Can you just talk about maybe what you've seen from him, maybe what's improved or what's changed over the past?
Way more confidence, and that's what happens when you start feeling a little bit of success. That comes with it. It's got a big job ahead of him because he's, we've had to move him to the right the last game, and he's going to be there again tonight, and he's playing with a stalwart in our captain. So it's it can be a lot for a player, and he's handled it great. So good on him, and just love seeing him improve every day.
John, fourth game in this series between these two teams. How would you define the way it's played out this year?
Are we counting the exhibition games?
Well, that'd be interesting that you would, because those were.
We've played them so much in the last few years. It'd be hard not to say it's probably the best rivalry in the NHL, if not sports, what's going on right now. The games are a ton of fun. The competition level and intensity level is as big as anything I've ever been in games. They're a lot of fun. You look at, do places in the standings matter? I don't think so. I think it's irrelevant when these two teams get together. Both teams could be vying for first place, or we could be vying for the basement, and it would still, it's like the rivalry is real. And so you love being a part of those games. This one just has a different aspect to it, just because of what's coming up. So I have no real idea how it's going to go. There could be no penalties the entire game, or there could be 6 fights. I really don't know which way to go with it. So but I do know it's two teams that want to win, and they'll both be trying to do that. Good.
And there you go. Head coach Jon Cooper from earlier today, and some of the big things to take from that. The decision has yet to be made on Brayden Point. But again, one thing that I can tell you is that Julien Brisebois is not really here for morning skate. And he's not, if he is, he's not, we don't see him. He was downstairs today with his TBL jacket on with the head trainer, Tommy Mulligan. My gut tells me that Point is out. That's what my gut's saying. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I don't see, again, going back to what Jon Cooper told me the other night after the game. Coop said, if Anthony Cirelli can't be Anthony Cirelli, and he's not 100%, we can't take him. And I think you can say that same thing, and you can make that same argument for Brayden Point. If he can't be Brayden Point and he can't play with that speed, right? Because we know that the speed is the biggest part of his game. I mean, he's one of the fastest players in the world. Nobody really had him playing with Connor McDavid, but we saw that in the Four Nations. You have to be able to play with guys at that skill level, right? The guys that process the information as fast as they do. Nobody's like Connor McDavid, not even like Cooch. Like Cooch and McDavid and McKinnon, like as great as they all are, they're all different in their own way. But it takes a really special player to play with those guys. And I don't know, man. I really, really don't know. And if I had a guess, like I said, I would say that Pointer's out. And we kind of joked around that. All right, so Coop said everything's going to be okay. So that means that. Or Coop didn't give us anything, so Elliot Friedman will probably come out in 5 minutes with exactly what's going on. So we'll see. We'll keep you abreast of that situation. I wouldn't be surprised if we heard something by the end of the show today, but we'll definitely let you guys know. Same lineup as Tuesday night, so it'll be Gensel on that first line with Kucherov and Hagel. The second line will be Bjorkstrand with Gonsalves and Dominic James. Third line, Gergensen, Scored, and Holmberg. And then the fourth line, two guys you're going to hear from right now, Finley and Douglas playing with Scott Sabrin, and then your sixth defenseman, Moser, with Radish, Hedman, and Carlisle, and then McDonough and Chernak with Andre Vasilevsky between the pipes. That fourth line, I think they're going to play a lot tonight. I really do. I think it's going to get a little messy, and if that happens, the Lightning have to be ready. So this is one guy. He's going to be right there smack dab in the middle. He's gotten a lot of breakaways this year. He had a nice breakaway goal against the Panthers a couple of months ago. We'll see how he fares tonight. Here's Jack Finley. We'll see what he has to say about playing tonight against the Florida Panthers.
Against the Panthers last game before the Olympic break. You guys had some good chances and some good offensive zone time in that last game on Tuesday against Buffalo. What do you got to do to either cash in or just kind of duplicate that tonight?
Yeah, Yeah, I played with Sabs and Dougie a few times now. We played with each other. I think it was a couple months ago, and I got my first goal assisted by both those guys and my first point. I think we've built a little bit of chemistry with each other, even though we've only played with each other a handful of games. But our games complement each other well. They play hard, and they like playing down low, and I think that's similar to my game. So for us, it's it's a big rivalry game. Obviously, another important game to get 2 points, and we're looking forward to just playing hard again tonight.
Another breakaway the other night too.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to you a couple of weeks about that. I mean, you get another one the other night, man. It just seems kind of spruce up out of nowhere, huh?
Yeah, out of nowhere for sure. The one the other night. Honestly, I kind of felt like I panicked a little bit. Felt the pressure from the guy behind me, and just kind of shoveled it on net. Wasn't my best, but yeah, like you said, they're coming. It's it's a chance, and I just got to be ready for that next one.
You mentioned the physicality. I mean, obviously a game tonight. Is there a little extra juice when you go against the Panthers, knowing what the past has kind of been like the last couple times out?
Yeah, I would say so. Like I said, it's a rivalry game. This is my first year here, but you can really feel that rivalry and the emotion when we play against each other. Florida plays hard, as do we. So I think it's kind of bound to happen, and I think that's just in our DNA and in our game plan is just playing hard and playing physical.
There you go, Jack Finley. I think those guys are going to play a lot. I really do. Got to be careful with Hagel and Gensel, and I think I guess you could say the same thing about a guy like Holmberg as well. But yeah, so if I don't know what to expect too, and I'm glad that Jon Cooper says that. I don't know what to expect. We could have a penalty-free game. We could also see 6 fights because they obviously have guys like Sam Bennett and Kachuk and Marchand, right? They want to make sure that they're kind of taking care of themselves too. So we shall see. Also got a chance to speak with our guy, Curtis Douglas. I love this dude. He is so funny. I got a chance to hang out with him in the press box a little bit. And he's just a good guy, and he's so grateful that he's here. Here's Curtis Douglas from earlier today as well. And again, he's getting his opportunities. Eventually that these guys are going to have to cash in. Here's Dougie.
Stuff. How much fun did you have with me in the press box the other night?
Oh, a lot of fun. Yeah, you showed us the ropes.
I do blame you for not seeing the first goal. It's okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Obviously, the other night you guys had a lot of offensive zones, which was good, right? I mean, what do you got to do to kind of duplicate that again tonight against Florida?
Yeah, I think we just got to play our game. I think we play our best on the forecheck, and I think no team wants to go back and get a puck when you have me, Sabo, or Finner coming down on you. So I think that's the game plan, is to get pucks behind them, and if they want to go get it, then they're gonna have to pay the price. So I think it's once we get it down there, we can do some damage, and that in turn we get some chances, and maybe one will go in, and if not, we're spending time in their zone and letting our guys rest up and go do what they do.
The fans are so excited about games against Florida.
Yeah.
And especially because it's the last one before the Olympic break. What about you guys? I know it's tough because, you want to play every game the same and not get too high and not get too low, but is there a little extra juice going into tonight's game?
For sure. I think from the mindset of me, Finner, and Sabo, we just want to be a part of that winning atmosphere they have here. And I mean, they've done so well in the last stretch, and we just want to make sure that we do our part in helping the team win, whatever that may be. And so, like I said, we're just going to go out there, play our game, and just do our best to contribute in whatever way we can.
You almost wonder if those guys are going to start the game tonight, right? Like, I play them a lot. Who the hell cares, right? Get them out there. That'll be a lot of fun. So Dougie, Finner, and Sabo, they're going to play a ton tonight. Just a really good guy. Again, very grateful that he's here with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he's just an awesome guy. Just a really, really good dude. Still nothing yet on Braden Point. We'll keep you abreast of that situation, whether he's going to be going with Team Canada or not. I know I mentioned this yesterday, and it's funny because I'm going to talk to Ed about this a little bit later on. Do you sit Brandon Hagel tonight? You saw the hit last night on Charlie McAvoy, and it's hard not to. It's so crazy, these illegal hits that we see. I was on with the guys last night from the We the Thunder podcast, like all of these illegal hits from the Florida Panthers. There's not many things that the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning can agree on, especially their fan bases. But I think one thing is just it's enough. Enough is enough with these freaking hits. And this guy leading with his elbow. He didn't play, I believe, after that. But my goodness, it just seems like these dudes play with such a reckless abandon. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care who's in the crossfire. If something like that happens tonight, man, I can see tonight being a shit show for sure. Should be a fun one. Hopefully you guys will be in the building here at Benchmark International Arena. It's a 7:30 puck drop. There will be a very special kind of pregame stuff with a lot of representation from the Olympics. So that should be fun as well. We see a lot of teams around the NHL doing that, showing love to their guys that are going over to Milan. Okay, the big topic of conversation yesterday on the program, and a lot of people were waiting to hear about what was going on with Artemi Panarin. And I've spoke about this a lot. I'm a huge Breadman fan. I love his game. He plays the game with such youthful exuberance. He's got incredible vision. He's just unbelievable player. And we have found out that yesterday, Artemi Panarin has gotten traded to the Los Angeles Kings. And that was, I don't want to say a surprise, not a surprise. I mean, he fits right in with them. They could use the firepower because this is a team that has played well defensively over the years, whether it's defensive or in the at the goaltending position. Even their forwards led by Anze Kopitar, and he's not their first line center anymore. He's pretty much their third line center, but they play the game the right way. And that's been their thing. And that's why they've been able to win, throughout the years here and there, get some tough games and beating Edmonton in the playoff series a couple of years ago, but they need some more firepower to go with Adrian Kempe and Quentin Byfield, and to get a guy like Artemi Panarin is a huge coup for the guys out there in Tinseltown. But let's just remember what we spoke about yesterday. I said this on the show yesterday. Artemi Panarin was not a good fit for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it wasn't just because he wanted an extension. It just wasn't because, or it wasn't just, let me say that again. Artemi Panarin was not a good fit for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it wasn't just because he wanted an extension. It wasn't just because he makes as much money as he makes. When you look at what the Lightning have done this year to catapult them to the top of the standings in the Eastern Conference, it's because they've become once again a tough team to play against. A lot of people keep talking about the financial implications. It was about the fit. It was about the fit. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again today. I said it before the deal and I'll say it after the deal. You bring Artemi Panarin, he's a top 6 forward. He's a top 6 forward, and you are not getting a guy that is a Selke Trophy candidate at all. Yeah, you could put him with Kucherov and Point, but now you're running back kind of the same line that you did with Steven Stamkos. Offensively, when things are going well, they're going to be as good as anybody in hockey. But what happens when they get hemmed in their own zone for 6 shifts in a row and they can't get the puck out? Nobody thinks about it in that fashion. One of the reasons why the Lightning like the way that the top 6 is constructed right now is because at times you can have Nikita Kucherov with Hagel and Cirelli, arguably the best penalty-killing duo in the game, or you have him with Point and Gensel, where Jake Gensel is one of the best defensive forwards in the game, and he's playing on the wing. He plays center. I mean, it's just incredible. Insane how good Jake Gensel has been. Whatever line Nikita Kucherov is on, you have a defensive stalwart up front with him So that coach doesn't have to get all the way back. He can hang out by the blue line. He can, leak out early for some of those long passes in the neutral zone. Also, on the power play. Yes, I know Artemi Panarin could help you in that quote-unquote Stamkos office. But if you've watched the way that the Lightning have played on the power play, on the man advantage the last couple of months, they've changed. It's different now. They're not looking for that pass across the seam, across the ice to that far side on the left wing there. They're trying to set up Darren Radish. They've adapted, and look at how well the power play is done since Darren Radish has been the focal point. The chemistry with he and Nikita Kucherov, it's just been insane. It's been impeccable. So for all the different things about Artemi Panarin, and again, I'm a huge fan of his, it was not a good fit for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not financially, not as far as a fit and how they play. And think about it. You're finally building up some of the farm system here. You're building up some of the guys that you have there in Syracuse. You want to get rid of O'Reilly eventually. You want to get rid of Connor Geekie. You want to get rid of your first-round pick in 28. That doesn't make sense to me. You're finally building, once again, this team for so long, trading away their first-round picks, not having a bunch of guys from the AHL, from Syracuse, that can push for playing time, that competitive juice, that friendly competition that makes your team better. The Lightning haven't had that the last couple of years. They have it now. That's what Dominic James has done. That's what Charles-Edouard Destou has done. That's what Declan Carlisle and Max Crozier has done. Wojtek Stachowiak, he's going to play for Team Germany in the Olympics. Don't be surprised if they give him a look when they come back from Milan. And also, another thing to be very aware of, be careful who you get your information from. We are living in the age of fake news. And a lot of times, or even in the beginning, a lot of people were looking at this as just a politics thing. I tell you what, and there was somebody that, or Eric, our buddy Eric, called in yesterday. Hey, NHL trade rumor said that the Lightning were the favorites. The Lightning were never the favorites. Elliot Friedman said today, and I was told today, the Lightning kicked the tires on it, but, I mean, they weren't signing him to an extension. Not going to happen. So how the hell are they the favorites if they weren't even getting to that part, which everybody knew was a main point for Artemi Panarin? He didn't want to just be a rental. He wanted to go to a place for a couple of years. And that's another reason why the New York Rangers had no leverage. They had no leverage. They got a really soft deal, in my opinion, for one of the best players in the game. Be careful who you get your information from. All these people that said that Artemi Panarin and the Lightning, like that was a done deal, or saying that the Lightning were a favorite or a leader in the clubhouse. Look at who those names are. Make note of them and don't listen to whatever the hell they had to say. I said the same thing about the Buccaneers last week. If it's not a certain person or a group of people, take it with a grain of salt. If you're not hearing it from an Elliot Freeman, if you're not hearing it from Frank Saravalli or Chris Johnston or Greg Wyshynski or our guys here locally like Ed Encina or Eric Erlinson or D'Angelo Lou, take it with a grain of salt. Yesterday was eye-opening for a lot of people. And I came out yesterday and said, I just don't see the fit. I don't see the fit. And I had somebody come up to me today from the Lightning organization saying, thank you for being the voice of reason yesterday. What does that tell you? It tells you that they weren't as close as a lot of people thought. Or I don't want to say a lot of people, but those quote-unquote experts thought. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet. A big shout out to our guy Chan for the $5 super chat. We could not do this without you, buddy. Cannot wait for tonight. Still happy Ever Health Day. Happy Ever Health Day, everyone. I like that. Dr. Carlos Rodriguez is going to like that. Happy Ever Health Day, everyone. Michael LaRue, after tonight's game, the Lightning social media team basically turns into a Canada hockey fan account. They barely mention the other countries represented on the team, including the MSC. I'll keep an eye on that for that. What's good, Jay? You're giving the Raiders a number one pick in Kalijah or Antoine for Max Crosby? I am. Not Antoine Winfield Jr., but if you're telling me Kalijah can't see, you could have him. A number one and like, let's say this year's number one in Kalijah Kancey for Max Crosby, I would have done it yesterday. All right, let's bring him in. It's our good pal, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez with the Evara Health Injury Report. Doc, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm
Glad
good.
to be here.
Yes. How'd it go last week? Tennis.
Man, it was freezing. It was miserable. I didn't want to be out there. We went 2-2, so not a bad result. I mean, we were basically in the state championship, but it was just so cold. I had rather been on the hockey game.
Oh yeah, man, you missed a good one, buddy. I mean, I was cold. I was freezing my butt off the last 10 minutes. I actually went down to field level. It was an unbelievable performance by our Tampa Bay Lightning. Unfortunately, the Anthony Cirelli injury is so sad. And I know there wasn't a lot of information out there, but I just wanted to give you some of the information that I heard to see if we can kind of parse and put this thing together. Originally, Jon Cooper said it was a stinger. So obviously the stinger, we've talked about that a lot the last couple of weeks, but for a stinger, and you've said, hey, it goes away for a while, you just got to give it some days. But if it's not a stinger, and that's what it is originally, from what I'm hearing, it was a bit of a shoulder injury. So if we can go from stinger to shoulder and kind of put that whole thing together, what can we kind of glean from the small information that we have, Doc, as far as what he's dealing with, which has disabled him from going to Milan for the Olympics?
Yeah. So originally, all kinds of chatter, right? So first they say, well, it's a lower body injury, but then coach says, well, it's kind of a stinger. So then I started thinking, well, it's a lower injury, a stinger. So it could be a hip pointer. It could be a sciatic injury. It could be a lumbar nerve. But then it comes out, well, no, it's more upper extremity now. So I think, and from the hit, looking at the video, I'm looking at, well, I don't really see a lower injury there. I see more the impact up on the shoulder area, and he gets crunched in. And then in the bench, it's really kind of more grabbing the shoulder. So I think it may be more an AC joint injury. And ideally, it's just a minor AC joint injury, grade 1, grade 2 separation that doesn't need any kind of surgical intervention. It does need some time off, 2 to 3 weeks usually, for it to recover really well, for you to not have any pain and be able to have function. So I think that's why they've looked at him not going to Milan. Basically, I think he's already been replaced in Team Canada with another player. So I think they just want to give it time. So looking at the injury itself, now thinking it's more of really a shoulder injury. I think it's an AC joint injury. I don't think it's a labral injury or a major injury to any of the muscles of the shoulder, because otherwise I think he would have been announced to be out longer. So AC joint initially with the lower body thing, I'm thinking it could be a stinger in the lower extremity, which usually that takes days, not weeks, to recover unless there's significant injury. So with the shoulder, I think it's an AC joint.
Yeah, and sad thing too, Doc. Braden Point today. We haven't heard yet, Doc. We talked about the knee injury. Somebody was actually asking me today, what did I think about the injury? What do I think it was? And we kind of broke it down. If it wasn't worst case scenario of an ACL, it had to be an MCL of some sort. It's been a couple of weeks now. They have to make the decision today. We're still waiting. Jon Cooper said that the decision had to be made today. But it's kind of he's been skating, Doc, and I've watched him. Tuesday, he was one of the first guys out there and one of the last guys off, and he was kind of skating pretty good. Today wasn't one of the first guys, but he was one of the last guys, or excuse me, he wasn't one of the first guys on the ice, but he was one of the last guys. I can't say this. Bear with me here. I swear I speak for a living. He was not one of the first guys on the ice, but he was one of the first guys off the ice. And we saw Lightning general manager Julien Brisebois with head trainer Tommy Mulligan this is a big decision, and Hockey Canada wants to know, it seems like today. I mean, man, it's kind of tough with a guy like Braden Point because speed is such a big part of his game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know the speed, and when you talk about skating motion, I mean, you're pushing to the outside with the inside of your foot, right? That's your skating motion. So there's a lot of stress on the inside part of the knee. So with an MCL injury, which is likely what he had when we looked at the videos, it's going to be painful. It's going to be, you really want to make sure that ligament is completely healed up, very strong, before you're competitively pushing off that. No, it's a great sign that he's on the ice. He is skating. So he seems to be comfortable in it. It's just a matter of saying, is he ready to be there for game time, potentially take some impact, take some contact, making sure that all the cutting that he has to do on the ice is done without any significant risk to further injury.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Jon Cooper was talking about tonight is like just no injuries. No injuries. Doc, what are some injuries? And I was just thinking about this. When you have a long flight coming up to Milan, what are some of the injuries that you have to be very careful of? Because we've heard, with clotting and some certain
right.
That's what the thing that I think about too for tonight, where some guys may be dealing with some stuff and they have to be careful because they have a long flight coming ahead tomorrow.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as injuries goes with the main flight, there's really no risk because once you get off the flight, I mean, you're going to do stretching, you're going to do warm-ups, and you're going to do all the different things to make sure you're ready for game time. Now, in a long flight, the big thing is actually, as you mentioned, clots. So it's really just to make sure that you get off, get up, walk a little bit around the plane, not to be sitting statically there for 5, 6, 7 hours on end, because that could potentially slow down the blood flow in your legs. And if you have certain risk factors, which I think most of these guys don't, they're very athletic, then you want to make sure that those risks are minimized. But even if you're just sitting there, you don't really have to get up and start walking around. Just sitting there and just flexing the muscles of your legs, stretching your legs out, just moving your legs, bending and stretching your knees. That muscle pump creates the increase in blood flow. And by creating that pump and blood flow to the lower extremity, you minimize the risk of the blood clot. So if anything, the biggest risk is really the blood clot if you're sitting there for 6, 7, 8 hours and really not moving.
Super Bowl Sunday coming up this weekend, Doc, the Seahawks and the Patriots, and it looked like everything was okay, and then we see the injury to Nick Eamon-Worry, the safety for the Seahawks. It's this kid, I know he was kind of rumored possibly to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and unfortunately it seemed like people were consoling him at the end of practice. I don't know if you've gotten any more information. What do we know about the young safety for Seattle?
Yeah, so he got hurt yesterday in practice. It seemed to be a passing drill. He was just trying to defend a pass and rolled his ankle. There was no video that I could come across of the actual injury. On the positive side, he did walk off the field on his own without any assistance or support. So looking at the fact that he walked off, put pressure on it, was able to walk off, hopefully as a best case scenario, it's a mild sprain. He just needs a couple of days of rest, and with taping and a brace, he should be able to be there Sunday. Now, they said he's going to get further imaging done. So then that creates a little bit of concern, because if I'm thinking it's just a mild sprain, no injuries, I'm not getting any further imaging. But if I'm thinking it's more a moderate to severe injury, then that's when I start looking at, does he have a moderate to severe ankle sprain? Does he have a high ankle sprain? In those case scenarios, he's out. He wouldn't be able to make it, because usually for those, you're out anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to recover. So hopefully, best case scenario, mild ankle sprain. He's just off for a few days, and then the imaging, everything looks fine. And then we just do some good taping while having more a brace, and he's ready to play on Sunday. It is the biggest game of the year. So if there's unless there's a significant major injury, I would say that they would have him play. He probably wants to play,
right?
Regardless of what the injury is. But it's a matter of them really looking at it, protecting him from further injury. If it's something significant that is not worth the Super Bowl, but knowing it is the Super Bowl, anything other than a major injury, I think he will be there.
Doc, give us some more insight on the high ankle sprain. I think we talked about this a couple of months ago in the beginning when you first joined us, but it's one of those things where I've had it before, and it is just, it feels like your foot, like you want to cut your foot off. It hurts so dang much.
Yeah.
And some people would say, like, at least, break a bone on my foot. That's one thing, put a cast on it, right? It sucks. But the high ankle sprain is so freaking sensitive and hurts so much. Specifically, what is it about your ankle when it gets that high ankle sprain that gives you so much pain that some people are like, just amputate the damn thing, take it off? I mean, it's no joke.
So with regular ankle sprains, what you are injuring is the smaller ligaments at your ankle level. So there's anterior, posterior, and calcaneofibular ligaments on the outside of the ankle. There's the deltoid ligament in the inside. But in most minor ankle injuries, you're just spraining or maybe partially tearing some of those ligaments. And I think I mentioned this before, you got to think of the ankle as a ring. So if you have a tear in a minor ligament, so basically you just tore the ring in one little piece, the ring is still pretty stable. The problem with the high ankle sprain, not only do you tear some of those ligaments, you tear the ligaments at the top. The ligaments that are making sure that the fibula and the tibia are held together. So once you sprain those ligaments, now that ring is unstable. So every time you put weight on, basically the bones get spread out, which causes significant amount of pain every time you go to walk. So anytime you have a high ankle sprain, the main treatment is you cannot put weight on it because you're basically creating a displacement of the injury and causing delaying in healing. So you have to manage it by non-weight bearing. Again, a lot of times could be surgery just to rebuild and plate the bones together so they're sitting nice and stable. The ankle is what we call it a mortise joint. So if you're familiar with carpentry, it's basically like a trapezoid with a bone, the bone sitting in it. So it is very stable if all the ligaments are there. But once you have significant injury, especially with a high ankle sprain that involves multiple ligament injuries, that mortise is completely unstable, and any kind of weight and walking on it just makes it displaced and very painful.
It's kind of wild how strong our body can be at times, but how fragile it can be at the very same time, right, Doc? It's wild. What do we know about the quarterbacks for Super Bowl Sunday? Sam Darnold and Drake May. They both look like they're raring and ready to go. But what do we know as far as their health and their status?
So we talked about Sam Darnold. He had the oblique injury just a few days before the 49ers game. He was able to play, looked great, came back then against the Rams, and again, had a great game. He didn't seem to be uncomfortable at all. He had another week off now before the Super Bowl, which allows him a little bit extra time. I think they've really been limiting his practice just to allow this to heal. So we're looking at this being now really 3.5 weeks since the time of injury. And with most oblique injuries, that's about the right time frame. So I think he's going to be in minimal discomfort, minimal pain. There is report that he has been taking shots for pain right before the games, which I'm thinking are toradol shots to minimize any discomfort and pain that he may be having. So I'm pretty sure that if he's had any little bit of discomfort, they'll do the same thing. They'll give him a shot right before the game again to minimize any sort of discomfort or pain. But he looked really good in both playoff games. So I think he's going to be right there again, performing just as he did in the prior games without any significant issues. When it comes to Drake, initially he had the shoulder injury. I think may have been in the third quarter against the Broncos when he got tackled and fell on the shoulder. He was held out of practice last week. So a lot of concerns regarding did he have a significant amount of injury to the shoulder? Again, like Cirelli, is it a big AC joint injury? Is it a big labral injury? But he's been practicing this week, and he actually had a full practice yesterday, and that's very positive news for the Patriots. So I'm thinking he has maybe a minor AC joint injury or a minor labral injury or maybe a minor sprain. A week off was enough for him to feel better about it. And now he's been throwing. He's been looking good in practice. As I said, full practice yesterday. So I expect him to be there on Sunday.
Doc, this is a very unique thing. How does it change for a physician like this in a game like this? Because we always have these conversations of, well, if it was the playoffs, he would play. Or if it was the Super Bowl, how does this change on a day like Sunday, knowing that it's not best of 7, knowing that there really is no tomorrow when it comes to, all right, on the back end, you have months. How does that change for you as a guy that's with the team or working with the team? Do you give them, is it change on what your recommendations are for these players and how they're dealing with injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a little bit of a shift in the risk reward, right? The risk that you may take. And again, you discuss this with the player. So ultimately, it is the player's decision. If you give him all the facts, you give him the pros and cons of playing in this game based on your injury. There's more at stake. So I think a little bit higher risk is taken. I was fortunate enough to be the physician for the Tampa Bay Storm years ago, and I actually went to an Arena Bowl with them. And in those games, the people get hurt, and you tend to evaluate those injuries and then discuss them with the players and then make a decision. Is it worth it for you to go out there again in the second half? What can we do to help you be able to perform without any further risk of injury? So the risk is a little bit higher. I think the decision-making tends to be a little bit looser, but still discussing it very clearly with the player, because there's a lot of pressure. I mean, the pressure from the coaches, the players, the owners, to the physician that we really need this guy out there. So you're going to look to see, how much can I do? Am I going to go a little bit more above and beyond what I would recommend to make sure that this player could perform and be out there and be beneficial to the team without risk to the player? So that's a decision that you have to make, and it is a tough one. They're made all the time, especially when it comes to a big Game 7 in a playoff series or in a Super Bowl one and done type of game.
Yeah, it's a good point, and we'll see who's going to be able to kind of tough their way through it. Nick even worry, compared to the quarterbacks. We'll see what happens. Our guy Benny wants to know, Doc, can you please tell us your opinions on cortisol? I've heard that over the last couple of years as well. What do you think about cortisol, Doc?
So cortisol is actually a hormone that your body makes. So I'm thinking what you're thinking if cortisone. Cortisone is what we inject, whether it's to joints or in muscles to relieve inflammation. So the cortisone is one of those things, especially, and I'm going to talk about injections into the joint. The evidence on it has gone a little bit back and forth. They do relieve inflammation. They do relieve pain. The pendulum has swung to, there's no issues with long-term use of cortisone in joints and damage to cartilage, to the pendulum swinging now the other way, saying it's not a long-term solution. Repetitive injections of cortisone into joints can actually be detrimental to cartilage in the long term and cause a little bit more cartilage loss. So while it may be a temporary solution to relieve pain, swelling, and inflammation, it's not a long-term solution as far as treatment for things like degenerative disease or cartilage wear and tear. For acute injuries, there's a little bit of indications for the use of cortisone to relieve some inflammation and pain and decrease swelling. But as far as a long-term evidence right now, there's some evidence that says that's probably not a good thing to use it as a long-term solution for a lot of the indications that we've been using in the past.
Doc, and excuse the guys are on the rink now getting ready for the Rink of Dreams. This has got to be so cool for guys that are just regular ham and eggers to get a chance to play here at the arena. You coming to the game tonight?
Yeah, I'll be there. I will be there.
Man. It's going to be a good one. Doc, I wanted to ask you this because I think this is really important to get from somebody like yourself. I've said a lot over the last couple of weeks about being careful who you get your information from, whether it's on the football side or local guys with the Bucs. Same thing with all the stuff with the Lightning. For you, when you have to change the way, like you just said with cortisone there, and we've talked about Toradol and different things.
Right.
Who do you rely on when things change, when you hear about new medicines and new procedures and stuff like that? How do you kind of parse through it and say, well, that seems legitimate. I'm not really buying that. That's kind of hokey. For somebody like yourself that has really worked in medicine for as long as you have and really from so many different aspects, when do you kind of really, like, who do you trust as far as when information changes or adapts as the years go by?
I mean, you got to rely on research that's out there. And there's different levels of medical research. We call them level A, B, C, and D medical research. So you got to rely on the highest level of medical evidence out there for you to make your medical decisions. So it's a lot about looking at journals, looking at research that's been done. I use a resource called PubMed, which is basically where a lot of the medical publications and medical articles are put in. I rely also on the associations I belong to, the American Society of Sports Medicine, my American Academy of Family Physicians, where there's publications and there's articles that look at different medical evidence and they give you the newest information on that. I don't go into Google. I'm not looking through the internet for medical information. I go to reliable sources of information that as physicians and as professionals we have access to, and mostly within our associations and colleagues. But it mostly has to do with looking at the right research. You have to do a lot of reading. And that's the one thing I love about being in the medical field. I constantly have to be reading every week new stuff and new things. I'm finding new evidence. Or I may have a patient that may have come across some information in the internet and I got to go, well, I've never heard of that. Well, let me go. And then I have to go to the resources in the medical field and try to find, is there pros and cons to what the patient is saying, or is there evidence that supports what the patient may have read online on that? So you always got to rely on the sources that we have that are reliable medical sources, and a lot of that has to do with research. I mean, when it comes to new medications, yes, the pharmaceutical companies and the people that make the medications are going to give you certain information, and that can be biased. So you have to make sure that then you read other sources of information regarding the trials and the medications and the side effects and the use of those medications and then rely on more medical evidence before you start deciding, well, this is really going to be a treatment that I'm going to start implementing in my patients.
Doc, was there one thing that you've seen in the last 5-10 years where everybody swore it was going to work or swore it was good and you were just like, I don't know, and you were so against it? Was there anything? Because nowadays with social media, people go, I swear this is going to work. It's definitely worked. Was there anything that you saw here recently that you looked at and you're like, no, that's not going to happen?
Well, I mean, I will tell you, I mean, this is controversial, and I'm probably going to get a lot of colleagues that are going to be upset about what I'm about to say, but stem cell treatments, stem cell injections, potentially and theoretically, the use of stem cells has a lot of great potential for what we believe it could do. But I think the actual medical evidence on the use of stem cells, say in joint injections, I think it's lacking. A lot of what we have is case series. People inject 100 people and say, well, their pain got better after I did the injections, but there's no comparison. So is it placebo effect that these people got better? What percentage of people that I put a needle in their knee would say, oh, I feel better, and I didn't really inject anything. I injected, say, saline. So yes, there's some evidence that people that get stem cell injections seem to have improvement in their pain. But is there an actual change in their joint? Is there actual improvement in the cartilage? Is there or is it just the same thing as if I do hyaluronic acid injections or if I do cortisone injections? So to me, the jury's still out on stem cells, especially for the price that is being charged for those kind of injections out there. And I think it's people are desperate and they would say, well, nothing else has worked, so I'm going to try stem cells. But if I'm going to be really strict about the medical evidence I'm looking at, I really don't think that all the evidence is out there for the use of stem cells in a widespread sense for musculoskeletal applications.
What would you suggest then if it wasn't stem cell, Doc?
There's good evidence for, it depends on the conditions, but platelet injections, there's really good evidence, and this is level A evidence, randomized controlled trials, very good evidence. When looking at osteoarthritis of wear and tear of the knee especially, there's very good evidence for it. For PRP, there's also very good evidence for tennis elbow and golfer's elbow. Those are really where we have the best evidence for it. So if I'm looking at issues with knee wearing down and wear and tear, I think hyaluronic acid or the gel, what we call it, the gel injections, so the chicken injections, because they're made out of the crest of roosters or the combs of roosters is what the medication is made from. There's evidence there that it does slow down the process of wear and tear of the joint. There's no reversing the wear and tear of the joint. Platelet injections, there's also evidence that it may slow down the process, no reversing. Stem cells, we don't have a lot of grade A evidence that says, yes, the cartilage got better, the process was reversed, so the new cartilage grew. None of that. Most of the evidence out there is, well, pain got better. We did pain scores before the injections. We did pain scores after the injections, and patients said they feel better. Is that enough?
I love that. I love that, Doc. What do we know about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? I was watching the Thunder last night. They only had 8 healthy players. Every single one of their stars is hurt, including SGA, the defending MVP of the NBA. What do we know about him? How long is he going to be out?
So SGA suffered an abdominal strain. They say he's going to be out at least until after the NBA All-Star break. It depends on the abdominal strain. So on the short side, 1 to 3 weeks. On the longer side, 4 to 6 weeks. Very similar to the conversations we've had about oblique strains. Mm-hmm. The worst case scenario when it comes to an abdominal strain is what we call a sports hernia, which is not really a hernia. It's actually a muscle strain. It's a little bit of a misnomer. So abdominal hernias is kind of the extreme when it comes to an abdominal strain because there's actually some tearing of the abdominal muscles, and those can take months to recover. So the fact that they're saying he's going to miss about 4 or 5 games, he will be there by the All-Star break, which puts him in play by the end of February, I think it's more on the milder side as far as an abdominal strain and the 1 to 4 week time frame.
And before I let you go, I want to ask you about Lorenzo Musetti, the tennis player who was up 2 sets to love to Novak Djokovic. For him to have to retire, and I feel like it's that's one of the worst. Like, you get used to the scoring in tennis, you get used to love being 0, but I don't know if I'll ever get used to a guy retiring, meaning that he's out, because you have to explain it to everybody out there. No, he's not retiring from the sport. When he can't continue because of an injury. They say that he retires.
Right.
It's one of those things I wish they changed. But I mean, what kind of pain must he been going through, Doc? You're going against an all-time great. You're up 2 sets and you got to retire. That must have been such an excruciating decision for Musetti to have to make there in the Australian Open.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm very happy to see a tennis injury as a tennis player in the list. So, as you said, he's up 2 sets against Djokovic in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. Everything seems pointing to the fact that, yes, he's going to be in the semifinal and face Sinner. And then something happened, right? He starts looking a little limp. He starts not moving really well. He continues to play through it to the point that he can't take it anymore. So I'm thinking he had some sort of muscle strain. Now, typically in tennis, you're either looking at a hamstring, a quadriceps, or a groin strain, right? So looking at the game and looking at how things develop, a hamstring would have been really hard to continue to play on. Same thing with a quadriceps injury. Groin sprains may be milder as when they start, and you try to play through them. And if you look at the video, he's having trouble on lateral movements. When he's trying to sprint, it looks okay, but whenever he tries to break to do a lateral move, that's when he was in pain. So I'm thinking it was more of a groin injury. And I think he may have started with a sprain. As he's trying to compete and continue to play, I think it progresses to a tear. So now that he has a muscle tear, now it's very painful. Now it's very difficult to continue. So he decides to retire from the game, and Djokovic then wins by default. That, I think, is corroborated by now the news we hear that he's going to be out at least through the month of February. He's giving up playing what they call the Golden Swing, which is the Buenos Aires and the Rio de Janeiro tournaments. So he's out for the month of February to allow things to recover. He had imaging done. So I think that corroborated that there's a muscle tear. When you're looking at muscle tears, and I'm thinking, again, it's a groin, you're looking at about 4 to 8 weeks to return to safe competition. If it had been a hamstring or a quad, and you're also looking at a partial tear, it's about the same time frame. But really looking at the way it developed and looking at the way he was having trouble moving on the tennis court, I think it's more of a groin injury. At this point, I think a groin muscle tear, and about 1 to 2 months out.
Oh man, to not go to Buenos Aires and Rio de Janeiro, that's got to be a killer. I wonder if you'd see my guy Gustavo Kuerten there in Brazil, one of the great Brazilian players from the 90s and the 2000s. Yeah, Australian Open is one of my favorite events of the year, Doc. It signifies the start of the year. And for me, who's a night owl and I stay up really late, I love watching 3rd round matches, 4th round matches. It's tough when you get to the finals because it starts at 3:30 a.m.
in the morning.
But to be able to watch something at like 9 or 10 o'clock, that's always been my vibe, man. I loved it, and this year was no different. I watched.
It was great.
Some years I watched more women's than men's. This year I watched a lot more men's. It just happened to be what was on this year. But to be able to watch what Sinner can do, and Alcaraz is just such an absolute beast. But I'm glad to see as many Americans, because that was the thing for the last couple of years. I really think ever since Andy Roddick retired, it was Andy Murray, it was Federer, it was Djokovic, it was Nadal, and we really haven't had that. But now with Francis Tiafoe and Ben Shelton and Paul and some of these other guys, I mean we're invested more. We see on the women's side too the impact that Venus and Serena have had with Coco Gauff and Pegula, and obviously Madison Keys winning last year.
Right.
So I love me some tennis too, Doc. I played tennis.
Good.
I played tennis in junior high. My junior high baseball coach wouldn't let me miss tryouts for my aunt's funeral, so I said I'm going to go play tennis, and I went to go play tennis. So I played tennis in 7th and 8th grade, and we played tennis every summer. And me and my dad used to get out there and play. So still to this day. The mental fortitude, for a guy like me that was a baseball coach and, still a baseball coach, but played baseball and hockey, the mental fortitude it takes for tennis. You're having a bad day? Too bad. Too bad, man. Suck it up. This guy's killing you on the backhand. All right, man, you better change it up. It's one of those things where you have a real come to Jesus kind of meeting. Like, if you don't want to get your butt kicked, you better pick up your bootstraps and be ready. Right, Doc?
Yeah, and to give you a little bit of information on tennis and a little bit of trivia, when it comes to sports, the sport that has shown the biggest improvement in health and longevity of an individual is tennis.
Wow.
Singles. Now, maybe the caveat is playing singles tennis. Playing doubles doesn't have all those benefits, but playing singles tennis has been shown to have the most health benefits of any sport.
I love that. I got to definitely get back out there. The great Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, Ever Health Injury Report, joining us every Thursday at 12:30. Doc, you are the man. I appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, buddy. Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. He'll be in the building tonight here at Benchmark International Arena. It never fails, man. We always have such a good time and such a good chat with the doc. And yeah, man, we'll talk. We'll definitely talk some more tennis. I love the Australian Open. You guys, if you've been following me, if you've listened to me here on the show or listened to me on WDAE, you know how much I love the Australian Open. It is just every single year. It excites me so much. One year, I think it was the last year that Serena won. I actually got up at 3:30 in the morning just to watch her because you just never know, man. You never freaking know. And in all-time greats, enjoy it when you can. I say that about LeBron. You may not be a LeBron guy, that's fine, but you'll wish that you watched him and you paid a little bit more attention because eventually they'll be gone. Just look at Tom Brady, right? You never know. You never know. All right, our guy Evan Closky, Channel 10 WTSP, is going to join us here momentarily. He's trying to sign on. E. Kloss, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? Is he on the porch or is he at the arena? You got the white circle going around and around. It reminds me of the Xbox Red Ring of Death from back in the day. We're going to pull him out. We'll get him on eventually. We will talk about the Rays and the new stadium renderings. I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic, guys. I'm trying to be optimistic. Another trade in the NBA. Looks like Jose Alvarado is going to the Knicks. Wow. A big-time defender who loves to sneak up on. He's going to fit in so well. He is going to fit in so well. Wow. Unbelievable. Klaus, you there? We're still not there. Let's see if we can. Not the rendering of death. Only the real ones remember that. You got that, Putty. You got that right. All right. Evan's working on trying to get in here with us. We will talk about these Rays renderings. All right. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. A big thank you to Jose Colon with the $5 super chat too, buddy. Thank you so much. Couldn't do this without you guys. There he is. He's here. What's up, pal?
I had to move into a totally different. I don't know why that wasn't working. I'm at work right now, but as long as you can see me.
Yeah, we can. Look at that beautiful tie. How about that, buddy? I think it's a strong tie day for both of us. Strong tie day for us.
You look a lot better than I do.
What color shoes do you have on? That's the better question.
Really generic, as Simeon Rice likes to tell me. Like, these are tax shoes, like banker shoes.
All right, buddy.
I'll never forget when I wore these, and he just ripped me a new one. Yeah, you got the legit. Yeah, he would love that.
So these
not like the blue sparkles you had for the stadium series.
No, but these I've been told that I can only wear those for the Panthers now. That's what they said. Because it is a second-degree misdemeanor if I kick somebody. That's what the police officer said. But they said if it had anything to do with the Panthers, they'll look the other way.
Okay, that makes sense.
You got to be careful putting these things on them. I swear to you, like if you step in the wrong direction, you're gonna jack yourself up. No doubt about it. All right, so let's get right into it, buddy. We just saw some renderings.
Yeah.
Excuse me if I'm not optimistic, bro. Help me out here, buddy. Help me out because it's great. But I've seen renderings all over this freaking Bay Area. And where's the money coming from? Let's start with the renderings. What was your first thought about the renderings of this new Ray Stadium here in Tampa?
I mean, look, the renderings, right? Like, name me a time where renderings have gone bad. Renderings are fun. Renderings are exciting. We like renderings. Everything is in the palm of our hands. Optimism is at an all-time high.
Look
yada,
at
yada,
you.
yada. Yeah, I mean, look.
He hit him with the yada, yada, yada. That's
yeah, you know what it is. Look, it was the next step. I mean, we knew this was coming, and we know that they're going to try to really run this new stadium really quickly through the process to get it to 2029. You know, if you're a fan out there, my take is that it doesn't necessarily mean that a stadium is coming. It also doesn't mean that a stadium isn't coming. It's just, you know, take it for what it is, enjoy the pictures, and just know that there's so many more steps that have to happen before we actually can really get excited. And I think when it comes to the Rays, when a shovel hits the ground, that's the time you want to be super stoked and really locked in. Until we get to that point, you know, it is what it is.
Do you think they're going to have to extend their lease at the Trop for a year?
Maybe, but considering how quickly the construction went with the Battery in Atlanta, which is where they're basing everything off of, that took about 2.5 years to build. So if they get things moving the way that they want to get moving, I don't think they need to lease out the Trop an extra year. I think it's good to know that they have a backup option in case things don't move as expeditiously as they're supposed to. But still, if all things work according to plan and they're able to get the green light on schedule, then theoretically, I don't think they need to extend the Trop. But, you know, that will be once they kind of get a shovel in the ground, if that happens, then we can sort of know if they'll need that extra year or not.
What was your biggest takeaway from the Hillsborough County Commissioners? And thank you for letting everybody know that you can just skim forward to 59 minutes in. The city of Tampa thanks you for that, buddy. What was your big takeaway from Ken the Hitman Hagen's words there?
The first thing was CIT is absolutely going to be needed.
Right.
And, you know, we know probably 2 votes on that county commission board that they're not going to vote for it. But, you know, that doesn't mean that they won't have enough votes for the majority. But yeah, Ken Hagen put it on record that we're going to need CIT funding. He also said that the Glazers are likely to trigger an extension with their lease on Raymond James Stadium, which I thought was very interesting. We kind of have felt that was going to be the case. But, you know, everybody talks about Ray J is going to need renovations and this and that. Well, you know, Ray J has 4 5-year extensions that the Glazers can trigger, which they have to make it known by January 31st of next year if they're going to trigger a 5-year extension. So the renovation numbers, the financials, everything that we want to put into Ray J, we might be kicking that can down the road to 2033. So it might not be a right now conversation to have. And certainly if there is going to be a new Rays ballpark, if I'm the Glazers, I want to see how that turns out, right? I want to see what's going to happen. But they should have that answer by the end of the year anyway. Otherwise, it's kind of the same old. They were, you know, really, really happy with the conversations with the Zalewski ownership group, the transparency. They're working with a sense of urgency. Ken Hagen has said multiple times that it's not a threat but reality, that Orlando is a plan B option, and that if this does not work in Tampa Bay, they will just, you know, pack up their bats and balls and leave from there. He did
that would
say
be a death knell.
Yeah, he would say that, you know, the ownership group is expecting to put in $8 to $10 billion into the totality of the project. And yes, the rough estimate right now, though it's not firm, is $2.3 billion for that stadium, with the team reportedly putting in at least half. So those are the broad strokes. All we got were broad strokes things. And right now. So we'll worry about that when we get there. I had a call there.
You're good.
So we'll worry about that as we get to the next steps. But that meeting was just to say, hey, you can now negotiate with the team.
So we hear from the owners that they'll pay for half of it, $2.3 billion. We saw last year with the tourism tax and how Pinellas County and the city of St. Pete got together and they said, hey, we have $700 million for this whole deal, right?
Yep.
Are we going to be able to, with that CIT, are we going to be able to see $700 million? Because that's not even half of $2.3 billion. That's my concern. is
Yeah.
they're talking about getting CIT, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is similar to the tourism tax that we were talking about for the stadium on that side of the bay, correct?
Yeah, for
Similar,
most part, you
similar.
can use it for roads, whatever. Blah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
But what I'm saying is, like, they're using a similar type of, they're using a tax that's set
Correct.
aside for a certain thing like this, right? I think it was
Yep.
more specific over there maybe than what it is over here from my research. But with that being said, they were able to get together, city and county, to come up with 700 million. And this was probably one of the reasons why that they had the upper leg on the Hillsborough County side, because they had that tourist tax. Now, there's a way to be able to use a similar tax on this side of the county, but who's to say it's going to be 700 million like what they were able to do over there? So if that's the case, even if they're able to match the number that they had last year, that's not even half. So that's my thing, is where is this public funding going to come from if you, even if you can't match the astronomical number that the St. Pete City and the Pinellas County were able to do with 700 million? I just don't, to me, still, renderings aside, I just don't see how the math adds up. If this ownership group is going to say half, all right, well, you're going to need what, 1.15 billion? Like, that's just, it's scary.
There are a handful of things here at work. First off, this is the first time in the history of the Rays that the governor has been on their side. We know where the
How does that help? How does that help, Ev?
Well, it helps in a lot of ways, in the sense that, DeSantis wasn't willing to bend over backwards to help the Rays at all. Now, I mean, first off, Ron DeSantis has helped with the Zalewski group grabbing a hold of the Hillsborough College land, right? So the Zalewski group isn't actually purchasing any land. They're acquiring the state's land and working development rights onto it. So it's kind of a help me, help you, right? Ron DeSantis said, I would rather, invest in something where someone's going to put, make new buildings, put money into this land where it's going to help the community versus just refurbishing old buildings. That's more of a waste of money in his mind, that this is a way that we can make this work. But whatever gobbledygook comes out of anyone's mouth, the fact is the state is willing to give essentially this land to the Zalewski group, and that saved them a boatload of money right out of the gates. Right out of the gates, they now have prime real estate in Tampa that they did not have to really pay for. Now they're going to have to pay for the development, which is a ton. Don't get me wrong, but that helps the math out a little bit. Then you hope that, if you're Ken Hagen, okay, some of these things that the state typically hasn't allowed for taxes on, maybe rental cars and whatever, maybe you have a little give on that. Maybe we can add a little cent here, a cent there. Again, we're so early in this process. We don't really know what is feasible and what is not feasible. But the fact that you have DeSantis on your side, and this isn't a political thing at all. I'm just literally stating the facts here. The fact that Zalewski and DeSantis are best buds, that helps with maybe another funding stream. DeSantis said, roads and, whatever transportation, whatever we can do in that part, we'll throw money at. So that's going to also maybe be part of some of the funding that happens. So really, they've never had state funding possible when talking about these stadium deals. And that is going to be a part of it. It's not going to be the whole thing, but it does add to the whole kind of jigsaw puzzle of how do you make the money work. And then, there might be some bonds, some things that where you can also maybe tax, a sales tax, a cent here, cent there on whatever is going to happen on, on the development when you build it. When you go to the restaurants, there might be, some money taken away to kind of pay back, so on and so forth. So I'm very curious what the creativity is going to be and how to fund this, but I'm not willing to count it out until I hear how creative they can be. I think there are avenues for them to create some more revenue, some more money buckets, but we still don't know what that is, and we're way too early in the process still to understand how that can all work out.
Yeah, I guess that was my next question, is what is your biggest question now after the renderings, after the discussions, after the announcements? What's your biggest question or biggest skepticism moving forward?
the money. Exactly what you're bringing up right now.
Yeah.
It's how is this going to be paid and divvied up? And when you sell it to the public, you're going to have to sell it on. It can't be a $1.3 billion price tag to the local taxpayer. It's going to have to be marketed as such as the tourists are going to pay for this. You know, we have the money for Ray J. We have this. We've tucked this away. You know, the only amount of money we're putting into this is X. And that's kind of what I want to hear next. I want to know how that's going to be, you know, how the taxpayer in Hillsborough County is going to be for this project. And, you know, I will say on the flip side of things, this is land that, you know, however they were granted it, this was land making $0 for the county. And that's just, you know, it's an educational institution. It's really not supposed to be for profit. But if it can be for profit, and if you can run the educational system at the same time, that inherently adds value to the land, that inherently brings more money to the city. And I also want to know what that value is. What is that money, and how is that going to pay back the land and all the stuff that you're going to put into it? So there's a really intriguing debate here, especially with the location. But there are a lot of questions, and sadly, we don't have enough answers. So money, number one, and then also like a litany of other questions after that, and that will determine where I kind of swing on my optimism or pessimism.
Love it, buddy. Love it. All right, let's talk some Lightning hockey because we're here. I wanted to ask. I wanted to make sure that we haven't heard anything on Braden Point yet today. It was very strange. It was a very strange vibe today when Jon Cooper was asked about it, when William Breezewell was kind of walking around, peeking his head into the locker room. It was like, you don't see this very often. What was your take on the Stadium Series game, man? Just an epic night where the spotlight of sports was on our city.
Yeah, I mean, two entities took an L there, the Boston Bruins and then me with a cold for a couple days afterwards.
Oh, yeah. I'm still freezing now.
I had a gnarly cold. But, man, I would say after you get through, I think back to some of the greatest things I've done here and events that I've covered. I immediately think of the boat parade. I think of, the Lightning winning that second championship at home. I think of going to the White House. But that Stadium Series is right there, after those things. It was such a cool event for our city. I mean, really, the amount of applause that we got from the country, the world for the event that we put on here in Tampa, the hockey fandom we have here in Tampa, that we're a hockey city. Man, I was just so proud that our city collectively, forget about the wins and losses in this and just how spectacular the game was and the goalie fight and all that stuff. I'm just so proud of our city showing up, showing out, community leaders, everything that we put on a world-class event. And that was just really awesome. And I have not heard one bad thing from, I have coworkers who went to the event. They all loved it. Some people never have been to a hockey game in their life. And I was like, you're going to be spoiled now. But yeah, it was just super cool. And the game, the shootout win, the goalie, all that stuff was just a cherry on top. But man, really, really, really awesome.
I'm still cold. I swear I've been cold since Saturday afternoon going in the freaking tent. I have not been able to thaw out. I've had baseball practice Monday and Wednesday. I'm freezing my ass off right now in the arena as well. I got practice tomorrow night. I got tournament this weekend. I think Monday I have practice too. Tuesday, I might take off the show Tuesday just so I can go to a sauna and just sit there and just get all the heat
by
back.
the weekend. We're
gosh.
almost there. We're almost there.
I hope so, my friends. All right, so what do you make of this team? We were kind of it's funny. I was telling somebody, I was going to be in bed by 11:30 last night. Looked at my phone, it was 12:40, and I was like, "This is what happens when Evan and I get on a heater. You and I just start texting, and all of a sudden I look at my phone, I go, holy crap, bro! We've been texting for a half hour." We were kind of going back and forth about what this team needs at the trade deadline. I brought up Dylan Cousins to you last night. I mean, that would take an arm and a leg, but the Artemi Panarin deal fell through. And even I don't know if you heard this, but today I had a couple of people from the Lightning organization come up and say, thank you for being the voice of reason on social media yesterday. And I go, oh, you guys pay attention to what I do. Well, that's pretty awesome. But it doesn't make any sense. And, you know, we're going back of like smaller moves and bigger moves. And I know you would love to see Blake Coleman here. I think they might just not do anything. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's hard. I think maybe the number one thing is don't upset the apple cart, right?
Yeah, that's why I say like my boring move that I texted you, like my boring move is Blake Coleman, because I do think Coleman is better in some ways 5-on-5 at least than Bjorkstrand. Is it like a crazy difference? No, but here's the thing: like I can get Coleman at, you know, a few shekels less money. I can run him up and down the lineup as need. I know who he is. I know how to play him. There's familiarity there. I have him for next season. So now I already can game plan. You know, what Julian has done such a good job at is planning for the future. So now I got a little bit of a game plan for next year as well, as everybody is kind of tucked away. They don't have many free agents outside of Darren Radish. And then
so that's the move you would make? The move you would make was trading Oliver Bjorkstrand for Blake Coleman straight up?
Yeah, well, and, you know, and then I'm sure, you know, picks or, you know, there might be one.
Got to sweeten the deal a little bit,
Yeah, whatever it might be, you know, do that. But that would be the foundation of it. And, I think Blake Coleman still has plenty of juice left in him. It doesn't really solve the right-handed shot on the power play. It doesn't necessarily solve the work on the dot, but I do think that at least in like, do I think that the Lightning are a better team if you have Blake Coleman over Oliver Bjorkstrand? In my opinion, I think they are a little bit better, and even if it's marginally better, right, you're still moving better. And I think that's what Julian has to look back at, is that 2019 season. Do I stay put when things are going amazingly, or can I see beyond that and try to make a tinker here and there and not get complacent with how special this group has been up to this point?
Yeah, and I wonder on the power play, that's my big thing with Bjorkstrand scoring 9 goals this year, 8 of them on the man advantage, and he scored one the other night, right, to tie the game against Buffalo. I just don't think he hurts you enough to say that you have to get rid of him, right? He's a guy that if he plays in the fourth line, he kind of does, and he's got experience on scoring goals. So, but I'm with you. I don't know if anybody would turn down seeing Blake Coleman in a Lightning uniform again. We just have to worry about what number he'd wear, because Nick Paul wears number 20 now. But I mean, how great it would be to have Colsey here. That's no doubt about it, man. What else about this team piques your interest, or have you been keeping your eye on over the last couple of games?
I mean, like Nikita Kucherov is. I'm really happy to kind of see all the flowers he's been getting recently. This is an all-world tear from him. I mean, in his last 35 games, he has 75 points. Like, this is remarkable. This is and Nikita Kucherov is going to go down as, I don't know, like a top 10 player in NHL history. Like, I mean, he's going to be of the upper echelon in that world. Certainly the best, you know, one of the best of his generation. And this is one of the best stints of his career when you factor all that in. So, like, drink it in. It stinks that he's going to be hitting the pause button for 3 weeks after getting so hot. But he's been remarkable to watch. That pass to Gensel the other night was insane, like, truly. I also think the pass that Hagel had to Kucherov, but when Darren Radish tied the game, was also equally insane. I think Darren Radish is arguably one of the best stories in the NHL this season. I don't think he's going to be a Norris finalist, but I think there's a conversation to be had if he continues to do what he's doing, that he could be in that running for a guy who was a career AHL player, a guy who was a healthy scratch, you know, multiple seasons for the Lightning, including last year in the playoffs, to kind of have this resurgence. I mean, that's truly amazing. So you kind of wonder, like, you know, what's going to happen to this team when Cooch isn't putting up 3 points a night? What's going to happen when Darren Radish's bombs aren't all going in, right? Like, what's going to happen to this team when everyone's healthy? And you need to make time for everybody, more so on the blue line than really the forwards. But, man, I've been truly surprised, and like, I tip my cap to this team, because no matter what, they've always found a way, and they've remained dominant in the process.
The Tampa Bay Findaways, they're back.
They're back.
They left They left for a couple years ago, but now they are back, just like the renderings are back here for a new Rays stadium. E. Closky, WTSP on Twitter /X, Ken Tampa Bay with our guy David Shealy as well. Ev, you're the man, buddy. You coming to the game tonight?
Not coming to the game. I got to work. David's on PTO for the next week, so I'm in the long haul here alone.
All right, man. Well, you hold it down there, and we'll be checking you out on 10 Tampa Bay. You're the best. Thanks for making my show a whole heck of a lot smarter, buddy.
Dude, I appreciate you as always. We'll get to texting at a better hour next time.
No guarantees, buddy. I feel like that's when our best ideas come out at that time.
I do my best work. I do my best work from like 1 to 3 a.m. I'm just saying.
It's good to know that I'm not the only person that feels that way, buddy. Thanks, Ev.
Right,
I'll talk to you soon.
One.
You too, pal. The great Evan Closky, Channel 10 Tampa Bay WTSP. He's the man, buddy. Love talking baseball with him. Love talking anything with him. He does such a phenomenal job. Let me see. The original Oos. Ed Encina will be joining us here momentarily. Guys, don't forget, I got to show love to my people. EverHealth, the EverHealth injury report with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. That was a little while ago. That'll be up on our channel here. The doc is the man. He's unbelievable. Makes our show a whole heck of a lot smarter as well. I just said about Evan, but I'll say the same thing about the doc as well. EverHealth.org. 17 different locations in Pinellas County. Everything from the cradle to the grave. I go there. Doc checked me out, dealing with some of the injuries and some of the calamities that I'm dealing with. They have a sliding scale for the uninsured. They take any types of insurance. It's just a really solid place overall that, you trust them to be able to take care of you. And those are the kind of people that I want to work with. Same thing with Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC for all your residential and commercial needs. My guy Hammer, he's the best. Team Tampa Bay all the way. A USF grad. You're looking for kitchen renovation, bathroom renovation. You got a plot of land, looking for a new custom build. They can help you out. 813-244-0956, thehonesthammer.com, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Shoot them an email. You get a discount. Tell them that you heard it right here on the J Recher podcast. What a show that we've had for you guys already today. Shannon wants to know where's Oos. He's on his way. And Shannon, before Ed hops on, next week, we're going to have him on. There's not going to be any Lightning hockey. Can we get Josh Hockey on next week? Can we surprise him with Josh Hockey? I think that'd be pretty awesome. He's going to join us in about 2.5 minutes. Still keeping an eye out right now for any news on Brayden Point. We haven't heard anything quite yet. Nothing quite yet. Still keeping an eye out. Nope. All right. We'll keep you guys abreast of that situation as well. I'm going to delete your comment, though, Shannon. I see it because if he sees it, I don't want to give it away. So there we go. Yeah. 1:27 in the afternoon. You think that they have to make that decision here in the next couple hours before they head to, because everybody heads to Milan tomorrow from what we're hearing. So one thing that Chris Johnson did tell us that we are not going to see Team Canada bring any kind of injury replacement. We're not going to bring any extra bodies in case Pointer can't go. So, again, Ed was there. He's going to join us here in a minute. It's kind of tough because Jon Cooper, with his lawyer background, he keeps a lot of his information so close to the vest. And after the fact, even then, he's not as verbose. Like the other night when I asked him about Anthony Cirelli. He just said he was just devastating. And, if Anthony Cirelli can't be Anthony Cirelli and he can't be 100%, then really he can't go. And I start to think of, all right, well, what about Brayden Point? Because Brayden Point is another guy. Speed is such a big part of his game, right? The way that he's able to skate, the way he's able to keep up with Connor McDavid and some of those other top-tier guys on Team Canada. I mean, that's part of the reason why he's so good here with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Being able to operate and be able to process information so quickly with a guy like Nikita Kucherov. Not everybody can play with Kuch. Not everybody can. But Poyer he's just had that ability since he's been with this Tampa Bay Lightning team to be able to play with top tier guys, whether it's a Gensel, whether it's a Kucherov, whether it's a Stamkos, and then we've seen it with Team Canada as well, whether it's McKinnon, whether it's McDavid. Braden Point can operate at such a high level, but will his body allow him to do that? And dealing with that lower body injury, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, the Bolts have told us that he's avoided and the worst case scenario. And when you see get a guy bent back like that, you're automatically thinking ACL. But if it's not an ACL, it's usually an MCL. And we talked about the different grades there. We'll see. We'll find out. And as soon as we find out that information, we will pass it along to you. Let's bring him in for his weekly hit. The original Oos, the last real Oos, Ed Encina from the Tampa Bay Times. I like that shirt, buddy. Looking sharp.
It's just a little flannel, man. It's kind of I'm just embracing the cold here, you know.
A little flannel action, buddy. Have you thought out from the game this weekend?
No.
Bro,
my brain hasn't thought out either.
I'm like, I can't even think right now. I'm like, what is going on?
It's one of those things where it's just like, you know, it's the same. It's, you know, for the players just as much for us, but like, there's just so much going on, you know, the past week, you know, even the build up towards it. So it's, it's one of those things that obviously it was an amazing memory and really cool, everyone who was involved in it and everything like that. But then, you know, there's games, big games, and then obviously the Olympics coming up too. So have I thought out? Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so either, buddy. I really don't. And it was kind of weird today to be able to talk to Jon Cooper after morning skate. And I look back at the video that I took. He was very skittish. He was like moving his hands around a lot. And, you know, Coop is so usually calm, cool, and composed. And I don't know if it's because he's got a lot on his mind knowing that he's leaving tomorrow or the whole Braden Point decision. I mean, what do you make of Jon Cooper? And I know it's tough because, like I said, he's such a tough guy to read from his lawyer background. But what do you make of what we heard from Jon Cooper? And what do you think the next 24 hours is going to be like for him in the Lightning?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a mind scramble for him right now. You know, he's hopping on a plane in the matter of, you know, less than 24 hours to go to Italy. And, you know, you've got to figure out, I think at this point, what your roster is going to be like. And it doesn't make it easier that one of those players is one that's in your own room and one that's, as we've seen, is working really hard to come back for the Olympics. You know, I mean, this isn't an Anthony Cirelli situation where, you know, it's very clear that Anthony wasn't, you know, he's not on the ice. He's, you know, it's the bad timing of it coming a week beforehand. I mean, Pointer's been on the ice since, you know, Saturday. And, you know, so it's almost a good week of him, you know, being on the ice and working to try to get back. So I think those are the tough decisions. You know, I think it became pretty clear that Anthony wasn't going to be able to go. And like you said, I mean, I think all parties realize that, you know, if you can't be the guy that you need to be, you know, it's tough to keep you out there. So, but yeah, I thought Coop was a little skittish is probably the right word. I think there's a couple things. One, it's that, you know, all these things are going on for him right now, right? But also the fact that before all that, it's the Florida Panthers standing right in your face, and you don't know what this game's going to be. You know, you hope that it's one that's a lot of hockey and very much less of the other stuff. But you know, history would say otherwise. And even if, you know, obviously both of these teams have a ton of players going to the Olympics and they want to keep them healthy, and so maybe this game starts out as one that's intended to be a no-hitter, but, you know, all it takes is one hit. You know, all it takes is one thing for, you know, we talked to Dan Hino yesterday, and he's one of the best guys to talk about because he's such a, you know, high energy guy and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And he called these games a powder keg, you know, and that's really what it is all it takes is one little thing to light the fuse. And before you know it, we're sitting at, you know, 32 penalties and 300 penalty minutes and all this other stuff. So hopefully that's not what it is, because if that happens, and, you know, you probably have some guys going down the tunnel, but I think both teams do want, you know, to protect their players tonight and make sure that they're healthy, you know, not just the Olympians, but just everyone in general. So I think that's a little bit why he's a little uneasy about, you know, next kind of 24 hours.
A lot of uncertainty, that's for sure. Lamp Boys 1 wants to know, we know there was a rare goalie fight during the outdoor series game. Did Eddie have an equivalent reporter fight with Boston's beat reporter? Was it a beat down? Hashtag Thrilla at Gasparilla.
Well,
Did that happen?
Lamp Boy. The Lamp Boys. You see that little picture there? That's actually me and my brother-in-law. We are the original Lamp Boys. When we were cleaning out my mother-in-law's house, we brought out about 18 lamps. And
Is that Josh? Is that Josh Hockey?
This is not Josh Hockey. This is Sean Hockey.
Sean Hockey. Okay.
So
Sean Hockey. We weren't told about Sean Hockey. Josh Hockey.
Wow,
Lamp Boys in the house.
Lamp Boys. But no, there was not. I was not challenged to a fight. No one came out of the crease. I would have answered the bell if that happened, clearly. But
Eduardo Encina and Florida Panther fans, heated rivals. How about it? Is that Josh Hockey? JD Liston?
Yeah, it takes the Josh Hockey. That's
Josh Hockey! What up, Josh Hockey? Man, you struck it big, man, with this family. Shannon, man. You got a winner here, buddy. You got a winner. God, I'm so thrown off now because of the Josh Hockey and the Bob Hockey and the Rob Hockey, Sean Hockey, Shannon Hockey, Ed Hockey, Lamp Boys in the house. The Artemi Panarin deal. What did you think? Eric and I were talking about it yesterday, and as much as I love Brad, I just one of my favorite players in the game. The more I thought about it, Ed, it just didn't make sense. There was not a fit for the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's not a Julien Brisebois move. He does not go big game hunting.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, there's that, and that I think when we look at a lot of the moves that he's made to improve the team in season, it's very rare that he's gone after rental players. And I know that Darren signed an extension with the Kings, but the one thing you look at this Lightning roster, and there's no one who makes over $10 million. So to be able, the likelihood, even if everything had worked out, where you get the Rangers to eat a certain amount of money, let's say you have an in-out situation with just hypothetically Oliver Bjorkstrand goes and clears some of that cap space too. Or, and even if you're okay with dealing a prospect like Sam O'Reilly, just hypothetically speaking, even if you're doing all that, you're not doing it just to get him for 3 months. You're going to do it with the emphasis of trying to keep a guy here. And I do think that one thing that we really haven't talked about a lot, but that's going to come up really quickly is, the future of Nikita Kucherov. And, this in the summertime would be the time when you can start talking about an extension with him. And so then you already allot, whatever that would be to keep Panarin here. And that's a lot of money, and what does that mean to keeping Kuch here? What does that mean to, the future of Andrei Vasilevsky in 2 years? And obviously, this is, these are questions for another day, but there's no doubt that Julian thinks about all this stuff when he's making these moves. And again, like when you go back to a lot of the moves that he's made, it's been guys who they can lock up, and a lot more younger guys. Obviously, Panarin's an older guy, was he 34 or something like that? But when you look at the Nick Pauls, the Brandon Hagels, even the Barclay Goodrows and the Blake Holmans had still a couple years of term on their contract when they came here. Really the only guys that I can remember were the Anthony Duclair and
Matt Dumba
trade. But those were kind of like those guys wouldn't even been able to be added if Sergachev didn't get hurt and go on LTIR. And the ones that's probably the big, the one that they made was that David Savard trade. And obviously they wanted to keep David Savard, but he signed elsewhere. But it's just Julian always has the big picture in mind. I just don't think that as good of a player as he is, that Artemi Panarin really fit into that big picture. And and I don't question any of the things that say that his want list included Tampa Bay on it. His desire list, because you can look at the standings and obviously see that's a place that if you're trying to win, that's a place that's got a good shot this year. And all the other things everyone talks about. No state tax, blah blah blah. But I just don't think when you play the long game as Julian does with many of these moves, you just it just doesn't fit, and that's even if you're thinking about the now and you have figured out the fit with the cap and the player in out, all that other stuff that there's also a significant obstacle to making that trade work.
So we're hearing that Sean Hockey is better than Josh Hockey, but there's also a Jen Hockey. Jen Hockey too. What's up with this?
That's my sister-in-law. So Shannon has 3 siblings.
Okay.
And they all have different versions of. There's really not Sean Hockey, but now there is, I guess. There's only Josh Hockey, but now there's Sean Hockey and Jen Hockey too. So
all right,
what about Shannon on the pod one week so she can explain all of this to you?
Shannon, we need you. We need you. She said, "What is it going to take for the Bolts to get a ton of Cooper for Jax Adams T-shirts for Lightning fans attending the Leafs game after the Olympic break? Make a scene about it and promote on national TV." I like it.
Push towards a spot for in the Lightning marketing department here.
I know. We need to do that. We need to do that. I like that. Big game tonight, obviously, against the Panthers. It is funky because it's the last game before the Olympic break, and some of these guys are going to be playing with each other here in the next couple of weeks. But I wanted to ask you about Brandon Hagel, because I just saw you. I put it on the thing to promote the show today, and I saw you answer somebody. I was wondering going into today if they would hold Brandon Hagel out, a mystery illness to keep him out so he doesn't get headhunted. Because, listen, we saw it last night. Charlie McAvoy getting chicken winged. But when nobody gets called up and Jon Cooper tells us today it's the same lineup, they're going to ride with Brandon Hagel tonight. But with that being said, do you think we see more bottom 6 action than we would maybe in a normal regular season game?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think that's one of the things, the pace of the game and how it works will determine that. I mean, I think, I think the first game, that Sabrin, Finley, Douglas line played a good amount of time. And
I think they will tonight.
The best line in that game. And Finley scored a big goal, I think. Maybe the game winner, I think. That was November, right? But so I could see that happening, but I mean, you're not going to keep you're not going to keep these guys off the ice on the power play, or Brandon Hagel's still going to play a ton of minutes in PK. That's the one thing about Brandon Hagel is he does everything for you. So he's constantly on the ice anyway. So, I get, I saw the mentions and everything like that about it. And I get the concern, right? Totally understand it. And I in the back of my head, I have the same thing, especially when you see, what, that the Panthers are doing the same thing as recently as last night with that hit on McAvoy. It's the exact same thing we've seen over and over again. High elbow, leaving your feet, and maybe you get a 2-minute roughing call on it. But I do think, let's imagine this. Let's just say Jon Cooper had that in his mind. How do you, with the team playing the way it is, with Brandon Hagel playing the way he is, right, with everything going on the way it is, how do you even call Brandon Hagel in your office and say, hey,
you're right.
Knowing Brandon Hagel, too, how do you be like, hey, you know what, just sit this one out, and I just don't see that happening, right? And at some point, who knows if they actually do play this team in the playoffs, because the Panthers might not make it, but eventually you've got to put some of this stuff in the rear view, and I guess there's no better way than now, and I understand the concerns about the Olympics and everything like that. Again, hopefully this game is more of a hockey game than the others. But again, and I no doubt everyone's going to kind of have their head on a swivel after all this stuff. But I do think that eventually, you've got to face this head on, and also some of those guys like the Sabrins and guys like that, they've got to push their game a little bit, I think that line has played well when they've been together. They play that kind of hard-nosed hockey that is valuable in these kind of games. We're talking about the hockey now, but yeah, I understand the concern, but I think at some point you've got to again, you're not gonna tell Brandon Hagel to sit this one out. And again, the other part too is they're so banged up with injuries that they need guys.
They need them. Yeah.
This isn't like the last game of the preseason where you can just call up the Syracuse 6 and just send them back down after the game. There's roster situations that don't enable that. So yeah, but I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone wants to see anyone get hurt, and especially in a situation like this. how heartbreaking was it to hear the news about Anthony Cirelli the other day? You know, I mean, a guy who, whether you were the biggest Lightning fan, an Anthony Cirelli fan, or, you know, a guy someone who thought that, you know, he should have made the team and Sam Bennett was better, blah, blah, blah. Like, that sucks, you know, because you never, ever know when you're going to get a chance. You know, Steven Stamkos never got a chance. You know, Victor Hedman had to wait till he was 36 years old to get a chance at this. So this is something these guys dream of, and you don't want to take that dream away.
Ed, what is your favorite team? Did the visitation hockey team? I hear they have sectionals on Saturday because you know what? Gen Hockey is here. We got the whole crew, buddy. Listen, if you guys ever like have any issues with your family, just come on the J Recher podcast. We'll get everybody here. This is just how we roll, buddy. You married into a good family, buddy. You really did.
I did.
They're all big time supporters of the J Recher podcast. My favorite Encina is not around though. Where's the pup?
Where is he? Oh, I brought him up here. He must have left right beforehand.
Ah, really? You're killing me. You're killing me.
He's
So
holding
you got
out.
me thinking now with the Panarin thing. If the Lightning do make a move, and I know it's a couple of weeks away, but where would they add? Right? I Oliver Bjorkstrand is a name that a lot of people are saying, well, you should move out, but I don't know if I'd necessarily move him out because they're kind of comfortable with him on the power play. He doesn't kill you, right? He tries hard. He's a really good dude. Will they re-sign him? Probably not, but I don't think that they necessarily have to move him. But Julian's always looking a way to fortify and to strengthen this team. Where would you look for them to try to make some improvements as we get closer to that deadline?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, when those guys are healthy, I mean, I think it depends on, what is the long-term health of guys like their centerman depth, guys like Cirelli, Paul, Point to a certain extent. I think he's more closer than any of those guys, obviously, as we talked about. I think when you look at it right now, that's kind of a big question mark. Is Anthony Cirelli okay to come back in late February? And if he's not, then that's a huge hole that you have to fill in terms of, kind of a matchup playing center. Or if you do put someone else in that spot, how it trickles down to the lines. I mean, before these injuries, we're talking about guys like, Bjorkstrand and Mick Paul playing on fourth line. So it's not a thing where, the bottom six was in any ways a lesser. But I do think, they can always use some of that, physical kind of grind line hockey. And again, we're talking about a situation where before these injuries, you had guys like, Jack Finley and Curtis Douglas struggling to even get in the lineup. But, obviously faceoffs have been an issue and they've gotten a little bit better at that. But, but outside of that, when you look at weaknesses, like, there's really nothing that stands out to you right now. There's nothing that, there's always been kind of something, whether it was like defenseman depth or, maybe, someone to fill out the top six, something like that kind of, you always kind of needed. And, the way this team rolls, it's I mean, come on, there's 18-1-1,
I know.
So when the results are there, it's hard to kind of pick it apart. But, again, a lot of things can happen. It'd be interesting to see, what happens as they come back from the Olympics. Are there any injuries? The status of Cirelli and Paul, and just because that's when also too, I think we've started to see the separation between the big five in the division and the rest of the teams. But we can talk about the Florida Panthers, and they get healthier at the end of the break, and they're absolutely a team that if their goaltender comes around can rattle off 9 out of 10 and they're back in it. So I wouldn't even count them out at this point, even if they lose tonight. So it's so tight, the Metro's tough too, and so Julian's is almost waiting for those sellers to kind of emerge still. And it'll be interesting to see though, after the break, maybe that first, few games coming out, and obviously the Lightning have a really important back-to-back coming out of that with Toronto and Carolina. How that whole market develops, because he said a long time ago, even in the preseason that, he didn't see a lot of availability in this trade market because a lot of the big-time targets who were pending free agents re-signed with their other teams in the offseason, and two, because some of the new rules with the CBA that have kind of taken away the ability to make some of the moves that the Lightning have typically made, namely the there's Raleigh, namely the sorry, I lost my the third party what's it called, the third party
retention
of like to take on money, which they've
retention third party retention,
which they've used a ton of those moves, right? So that's going to make it harder, and then again the competitiveness in the East, especially in the Atlantic, is really going to keep a lot of teams in the mix, even coming out of the break. So I think that's what makes it a little bit tough, that we're kind of have to wait and see where they are at that point, whether any injuries or anything like that do kind of create a little bit more of a thing. But I mean, I know the one thing is like you love the way they're playing right now, but you also love the depth that they have, right? I mean, like when Emil Lilleberg and Charlie Ward-Dustu come back, Declan Carlisle's been playing great. Max Crozier can't stay in the lineup, so they've got all this depth and they've got all these pieces. So, at some point, you might end up losing some guys. So maybe you do move guys instead of losing them.
I like that. Yeah, you're right, man. It's a good problem to have. All right, last question for me. The entire family is over at the Encina house for Thanksgiving. You and Shannon go out for a bite to eat. Well, not the bite to eat. You guys go out to the store to get something. Everybody's still at the house. You got to call one person to pick you up because you got a flat tire. Is it Jen Hockey, Sean Hockey, or Josh Hockey? Who picks you up?
I can't answer that question.
Who do you call to pick you up?
I can't answer. Then whoever I don't say, they're going to get mad at me.
Oh, come on, man. These are the hard-hitting questions here on the Jay Recher podcast.
I'd call all three. How about that?
Oh, God. This is why you are the man, buddy. Make sure you guys subscribe to I joke with Ed all the time. Support local, baby. Support local. The Tampa Bay Times. Ed did such a great job of everything before, during, and after the Stadium Series. It was just incredible. The e-newsletter, everything that's going out there, all the stories. But again, this time of year, especially with the new renderings, with the Rays, with our guy Mark Topkin, there's Bucks news all the time. USF, there's so much stuff. It's amazing. There's a lot of great stuff going on. Support local, our friends at the Tampa Bay Times. Eddie in the yard, Eddie on the ice, the original Oos, the last real Oos. He's going to go take a nap right now. Are you going to take a nap right now?
I don't know. I'm going to go see what Rolly's barking about downstairs first.
Oh, but watch out for the local squirrels in the vicinity. Ed, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you tonight at the arena, my friend. Thank you.
For sure, buddy. See you.
Thanks, buddy. The great Ed Encina. Ed Encina. He's the man. Support local, man. The Tampa Bay Times. It's just so great to be able to see him do his thing. All right. Eric Erlinson, lightninginsider.com. It's awesome. Really, really great stuff. Still no word yet on looks like Nicky Minwari, low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain, so he should be good for Sunday. All right, guys, this is gonna wrap it up for me. I'm freezing. I have to go thaw out. I'm mad. I'm a little mad, to be honest with you, that he didn't answer my question about who he would call to pick him up. I think it might be Jen Hockey. I think she would pick me up. I don't know. Josh and Sean might be arguing too much. I would think Jen would be there to pick me up and be Jenny on the spot. How about that one? All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. A big thank you to our super chats. Chan and Jose, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. Our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders and EverHealth, thank you for helping us here on the program. A big thanks to Eddie Encina, Evan Closky, and Dr. Carlos Rodriguez with the EverHealth Injury Report. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I'm everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Lightning in action tonight, 7:30 puck drop against the Florida Panthers. Who the hell knows what the heck is going to happen here at the arena. And, keep it locked here. Hopefully good news on Braden Point. We shall see. Back in action mañana at the home casa. Deandre Lou from the Hockey News is going to join us on the program tomorrow as well, so you don't want to miss that one. I love you all. Go Bolts. Go Bulls. Shout out to the men. Fortunately, the women lost yesterday. Men's basketball with a big win over UTSA last night. So shout out to Coach Brian Hodson and the Bulls. Kill that like button, guys. Share this on your social media platforms. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Recher Podcast. I am gone.